Hey everyone, I am back with my October 2nd, 2025 movie review. Today I will be reviewing the movie Dangerous Animals. It came out in 2025. So this year, it's a survival horror film, and it was directed by a man named Sean Byrne, and was written by someone named Nick Leppard. I could be saying that wrong, so sorry if I am. Again, not the best with name pronunciations. The film stars a variety of different actors and actresses, but it is a Australian film, although it has some co-production in the United States as well. It premiered a part of the Cannes Film Festival on May 17th and was released in the United States by June 6th. It is on a variety of platforms, so just to give you some places to go watch it, you can watch it. Apparently it's on AMC. I don't know why. You can also watch it on most streaming platforms that you can rent it on, like, Amazon, YouTube TV, stuff like that. I want to say it's on Shudder. I feel like it's on Shudder now. I also feel like it's on HBO. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to it. It's a very new movie, so give it some time. It'll be out in some other locations. But let's talk about it, okay? So, Dangerous Animals, like I said, is a survival horror film. The main character is a woman. The woman's name is Zephyr, and she is a surfer, okay? And Zephyr, she's an American surfer. Sorry, my bad. She is an American. She's an American character. But she is in Australia. And she's there to try to surf. She's kind of like a drifter type. She has a van. She lives in her van. She surfs. And she meets this real estate agent named Moses, and they hit things off pretty quickly. They have like a little fast romance, and after that she kind of disappears, ghosts him, and she goes off to this coastline to go surfing by herself, because she's a bit of, like I said, a loner, a drifter. And Moses is kind of taken aback by that because he really liked her. He had a connection with her. And while she's out, she goes missing. So now let's talk about things from Zephyr's perspective. Well, Zephyr doesn't just go missing. She is abducted by a man named Tucker, who owns a fishing boat, a rather large fishing boat. It has quarters underneath it, like kitchen, sleeping quarters, things like that. And he gives shark tours. Like, that's his thing. Like, he's a shark tour guide. And he abducts Zephyr because what you learn pretty early on in the film, this isn't a spoiler, is that Tucker is a bit of a sicko. He has, you learn it in the very beginning of the film. He has a thing for taking people out on boat tours to show them, like, sharks, and then feeding them to the sharks for funsies. So, bit of a sick dude, but you don't really find out the extent of his depravity until later on in the film, when you realize that this man records all of these things that he does. So he's not just a killer, he's a serial killer. And so the whole movie plays out as you watch him catch Zephyr. You watch her interactions with another woman that Tucker has caught and held captive. You watch her interactions as she tries to free herself. You watch her interactions as she waits, hoping that somebody comes to possibly help her. You watch Moses as he tries to figure out what happened to Zephyr, because he's, like I said, he hit things off with her really well. He wants to find her. He's going to the police. The police are not being very helpful because they're like, wait, you just had this kind of fling with this girl and now all of a sudden you're worried she's missing. You barely know her. So very interesting premise. There's not a lot of movies about serial killers whose weapon of choice are sharks. So, interesting premise. Very graphic. This movie is not going to be for the squeamish. If you don't handle gore very well, this is not going to be the one for you, because obviously shark attacks, not the prettiest thing to watch. Pretty graphic. Also, there's other things that happen in this film. So some trigger warnings. Just a heads up. There's a sex scene in this movie. If sex scenes bother you, trigger warning. There's discussion of some light discussion of maybe homelessness or foster care system abuse and things like that. So if those things bother you, or you're not comfortable with that discussion, maybe avoid this movie. Although I will say Zephyr's story is quite powerful. And then there's also a lot of intensity build up with waiting for the cops to act and do something to help Zephyr. So if that's a problem for you, if you have some hostility towards the police force for inaction, that might be a problem for you as well. Another trigger warning: gore. Obviously, gore, violence, language, disgusting voyeurism for voyeurism, but in the sense of hurting people, because that's Tucker's thing. He films his shark attacks. So trigger warnings for all of that. Also drug drugging people, because that is something Tucker does in the film. He does drug some of his victims to get them in predicaments that he needs them in to get them cooperative for these shark attacks. So if being drugged is a fear of yours or a trigger of yours, be aware of that as well. Now let's talk about this film. I'm not going to spoil too much, but it's kind of hard not to, because the whole premise of the film is just basically a revenge film and a serial killer using sharks to hurt people. I mean, this is not going to be a film that's super deep and impactful with a very deep and impactful storyline like the one I recommended yesterday. This one's more of just a revenge film, serial killer film kind of deal, right? So, what I will give this film props for is the creativity. I have not seen a lot of other films involving serial killers that have this premise. I will also say there's been some bangers of Australian films out the last couple of years. I've really enjoyed seeing a lot of Australian films and Australian directors. They've really been coming out with some really great movies. I'm going to recommend some other Australian films, so I'm not going to name any right now. But Australia, you got some good stuff coming out. Also, something else I want to mention. This is a great film for women, in my personal opinion, because it takes the whole role of a woman needing to be saved and victimhood and flips that on its head. Zephyr by no means is a poor, weak little girl needing to be saved. She's very strong. She's someone who's been in and out of the foster care system. She's, like I said, experienced homelessness, living out of her van. She is a very strong woman. She's a surfer. So she's not your typical main horror movie girl who runs and screams and cries and ends up being taken out by the serial killer or whatever, or fleeing at the last possible minute or being rescued by a man. She's very strong, very smart, and very resourceful. So if you want to see a movie where a woman actually fights back, this is the one for you. I have some other ones that I would love to recommend. There's another one I might include this year in my days of recommendations that I didn't recommend last year, and I don't know why, but I may recommend this year. That's also a revenge movie that involves a main character that's a woman. But for as far as a movie for like female empowerment, this is a really good one, and it's not very obvious. But I do like the play on the title. Let's talk about the title. The title is called Dangerous Animals. And when looking at this movie at a first glance, you may think, okay, Dangerous Animals, the movie's about shark attacks. Clearly, this movie's talking about the sharks, right? Well, clearly, yeah, sharks are dangerous, right? But what if you think about it in another way? You could be thinking, oh, well, Tucker's the dangerous animal. He's the serial killer. He's pursuing all these people. He's videotaping himself doing all of these heinous acts. Maybe he could be the dangerous animal. Or as you watch the movie, I want you to question yourself. Is Tucker the dangerous animal? Is the sharks the dangerous animal? Or is the true dangerous animal the one that's underestimated in the entire film? Is it Zephyr? So as you watch this film that I'm recommending to you today, I want you to watch and assess, who are the dangerous animals? Is it the sharks? Is it the serial killer Tucker? Or is it Zephyr, the main character? I want you to give me your feedback if you choose to watch this movie. I'd love to hear what you think about the title and what it relates to in terms of this movie. Because I think the title is a really smart play on the story. But yeah, there's not, like I said, there's not a ton going on in this movie, but as far as like a fun October flick with a little bit of gore, a little bit of action, a little bit of like intensity, there's a lot of intensity in this movie, a lot of build up. You know, this is a typical October Halloween spooky season movie. You're not going to go away from it thinking, man, that was so profound, or man, this really touched a part of my soul. But you will go away from it entertained, pleased, and satisfied from a horror movie, which is what this is. So, you know, I would say it's a great watch. In terms of ratings, this movie on IMDb got a 6.4 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie got an 87% on the tomato meter and a 74 on the popcorn meter, which, like I said in the past, has been called the audience score. So that's kind of where it's standing online. I would say if I didn't give it the movie I reviewed yesterday like a score, and some people might want a score from me. So if I were to give Saloom from yesterday a score out of 10, I would say Saloom would probably, I have very high standards, just gonna go ahead and preface this with that. I would give Saloom probably out of 10, and keep in mind, mid-range is not bad. For me, bad would be like a 1 or a 2. Anything below that is like not worth watching. A 2 is like not great. A 3 is like it was okay. So I would give Saloom probably a 5 or a 6. I would give Dangerous Animals probably a 6 or probably a 6. I'd give Dangerous Animals a 6. I would give Dangerous Animals a 6. I would say they're both probably on par, in my opinion. There are certain things that I look for in horror movies to make them really like that high notch 10 out of 10 score. And we'll get to that as the month progresses. And you'll see some of those types of films from me. But for now, we're sticking in the 5-6 range. So that's my personal score. In terms of ways people have described this movie, Dangerous Animals, nail-biting, thrilling, visceral. Some people have said there's a lot of gore, thrills, just some visually striking, high stakes. Those are just some of the words people are using to describe this movie. And I would say a lot of those are very accurate. That's really it. There's not much more I can give you towards this movie without spoiling it. It is very high stakes. The intensity builds up throughout the movie. The final scene is a really cool scene. There are some minor frustrations I have with this movie, but I can't really go into them too much without spoiling some important plot lines. But there are, like, as far as like cat and mouse, there are parts where like the main character almost gets away and then it just all falls apart. And in most movies that would be okay, right? But in this one, it just happens so much that you're like, okay, it feels like almost beating a dead horse. Which I know is an awful analogy, but it really does feel like that. There's like one scene in particular where she gets really close to being away from this serial killer, and you're like, oh gosh, again. And you know, I know all horror movies have that element, but there's this one scene, if you watch this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, where you're like, come on now. So could I have done without that scene? Maybe. Do I see the usefulness of it to build intensity? Sure. But you know, really great job. The special effects were great. There was a little bit of CGI in this movie because obviously sharks are not going to cooperate with you for these types of scenes. So for that, I mean, the CGI was pretty great. I didn't like, in terms of like the CGI in Saloon versus this, I would say the CGI in this is top notch. Very convincing. I felt the imminent fear of the sharks, and I'm not even afraid of sharks. I'm not even afraid of I've never really been afraid of sharks. But I felt afraid of sharks in this movie. Mostly because of the way they were being utilized. But overall, you know, great job. The actors and actresses did a great job. The guy that plays Moses, his name is Josh Houston, I think his name is. Good looking guy. Oh my goodness. So handsome. He's an Australian actor. Beautiful. The main character, Zephyr, her name's Hassie Harrison. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names. She is an American actress. Apparently she comes from Texas. She did an amazing job. Apparently she was also in Yellowstone. I never watched Yellowstone, but she did an amazing job. Very convincing. I loved her voice. Anytime there's actresses with like lower voices, as a woman with a lower voice, I can appreciate other women with lower voices. It always makes me feel good to have that representation out there instead of women, a bunch of women with like high, really pitched, girly voices. It's nice to have other girls with like, you know, the lower pitched voices. Representation is important. So, the guy that played Hunter, he's an Australian actor, and he is intimidating in this movie. He does an amazing job. He's also jacked. His name is Jai Courtney. Again, Australian actor. He apparently has been in a Terminator movie, Divergent, Jack Reacher. I never saw any of those. He was in Suicide Squad. But that dude, as a serial killer, yeah, I believe it. He's pretty scary. But I don't know if that's necessarily a compliment to the actor. Sorry, guy, but you did a great job. But yeah, good movie. Would I recommend it to watch? Yeah. Would I recommend it for a second watch? Probably not. But is it a great first watch movie? Yeah. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Yesterday I posted on my Instagram that if anybody has any like movie recommendations, to shout them out to me, that I will check them out. So if you have a horror movie, thriller movie, anything in the realm of like spooky season that you'd like to recommend to me, please let me know. I will watch them, and who knows, if I really enjoy it, it might be a part of one of my recommendations for this month. You know, today I am filming in my car, so we are not getting much better with production quality on videos, but you're getting what you're getting. They will get better, I promise. But for right now, this is what you're getting. So enjoy. Stay tuned for October 3rd's movie. You are not going to want to miss it. Bye.